The campaign Maya shipped last week is working, and Dan arrives at her desk already talking. Have Claude write personalized financial guidance emails for our customers, he says, and keep it quiet so legal doesn't slow us down. He means it as a compliment. She handled the last thing, so she can handle this. One sentence, and it hands Maya to exam traps at once. Freeze that sentence, because this is Domain 6 governance, risk, and responsible use, nearly one question in 6 on your exam. This episode runs the whole domain through Maya's week. We chooses our fair game, which data goes where, whose settings actually protect you, and who owns what ships. 2 of our 4 moves carry almost every answer here, gate and escalate. And Maya's week of studying is about to pay for itself in one conversation. Start with the first circle, personalized financial guidance sent to real customers. Anthropic's usage policy keeps a named list of domains where AI advice lands directly on a person's life. Legal questions, medical guidance, insurance decisions, lending and investing, hiring and housing, school admissions, and journalism meant for publication, the policy calls these high risk. High risk does not mean forbidden, it means the shortcut is forbidden. Before advice in those domains reaches a customer, a qualified professional in that field reviews it, a credentialed human, not a second pass by the model. And the customer is told, plainly, that AI helped produce what they received. So Maya's answer to Dan is not no, it is not yet. Claude drafts every email and a licensed reviewer signs off before one of them ships. That is the gate stamp doing exactly the job we hired it for. Zoom out because the exam wants you to place any proposed use on the right shelf. The policy stacks 3 layers, universal standards that bind every user, the high-risk tier we just met, and extra guidelines for special cases like consumer-facing chatbots. The universal layer is the never list fraud, deception, misleading health or legal or financial content, fake media passed off as real, misuse of personal data. Concrete version: if Dan wanted 5 realistic customer testimonials invented for a landing page, that is fabricated praise wearing a real customer's face and no wording makes it allowed. Point Claude at real survey responses instead and pull genuine quotes, each one verified back to its source, and the same tool is doing honest work. So the placement test is 2 questions: is it deceptive, and does it advise or decide something consequential for a real person? Deceptive means never, consequential means gated behind review and disclosure, and everything else is ordinary work with the ordinary verification you already learned. Now flip the question from what you ask Claude to do to what you hand it on the way in. Some data carries its own rules wherever it travels, and the exam expects you to recognize the classes on site. Government identifiers and account numbers, health records, payment card data, passwords, and anything under an NDA. Each class triggers its own handling before a prompt gets written. Identifiers get minimized or stripped, and health information needs an offering configured for it with the right agreement actually signed before a single visit note goes in. Contract covered documents are not yours to place. The owner of that obligation decides, and we will meet that exact situation again before this episode ends. Back in episode 1, Maya stripped identifiers out of a spreadsheet, and redaction is the floor of this domain, not the whole skill. The trap the exam loves most here is one word: internal. It is only an internal analysis, so the rules relax, except they never do, because the trigger is what the data is, not which audience sees the output. Back to Dan's sentence and the second circle: keep it quiet so legal doesn't slow us down. Quiet is the one thing governance cannot be, because your company's AI policy sits on top of Anthropic's, and the stack only ever gets stricter on the way up. When the policy is silent or someone suggests routing around it, the move is to ask the policy owner, and nobody said no is not a yes. While we are in org territory, learn the privacy split, because it decides where work data may live. On a personal consumer account, whether your chats help improve the model is a setting you control, and how long data is kept can change with that choice. On business plans, it is the other way around. Customer content is not used for training by default. and the organization holds the controls. Toggle names, defaults, retention windows, and plan lineups all shift over time. So the durable skill is check your org's current settings, never memorize this week's menu. Now the trap, a teammate says, just turn on incognito, then we are compliant. Incognito changes what a chat is used for on Anthropic's side. It does not change whose agreement covers the data or whether you were allowed to share it at all. Wonder certificates work the same way. Anthropic holds serious ones and their SASO2 is not your compliance. Your obligations live on your side of the contract. Time to run this domain's first exam question at full speed. While the guidance emails sit in review, Maya still owes Dan a churn analysis, and the raw export holds customer names, emails, and billing details. The company has an enterprise workspace, and her personal account honestly feels faster. 4 options. Option A, personal account with incognito on, so nothing trains the model. Incognito narrows what the chat is used for. It does not put company data under the company's agreement. Struck. Option B, personal account with the training setting switched off first. Same problem in a different toggle. Struck. Option D, personal account, then delete the conversations when the analysis is done. Deletion after the fact does not undo processing under the wrong agreement, and do it quietly then clean up is the exact anti-pattern this domain exists to catch. Struck. That leaves C run it in the company workspace and redact the identifiers. The analysis does not even need gate, the boring option, the correct option. Underneath every rule in this domain sits one idea, and Anthropic's fluency framework gives it a name: diligence. It means taking responsibility for what you do with AI and how you do it. The moment a draft leaves your hands, it stops being Claude's output and becomes your work, so you own what you ship. The AI got it wrong is not a defense this exam accepts, and nobody you answer to accepts it either. Here is the quiet truth about domain 6. These are the easiest points on the whole exam, because the professional move is always the boring one. If an option feels like a clever workaround, a toggle, a disclaimer, a code name, a quiet cleanup, it is a distractor every time. Pick the answer that would sound dull said out loud to your compliance officer and take the points. So, how does Maya's week end? She took Dan's idea to Priya instead of around her, and a licensed advisor read every draft before anything shipped. The review caught guidance that was plain wrong for one group of customers. A disclosure line went in, and the emails went out days later than Dan wanted, and completely clean. Dan saw the corrections, and he stopped saying keep it quiet. That is the domain gate. The data and the high risk uses escalate whenever the call is not yours to make. One more question before we close, and it is the escalate stamp's favorite sheep. A project manager wants to load vendor contracts covered by NDAs into a Claude project to speed up renewal analysis, and the company's AI policy names Claude as approved but says nothing about contract documents either way. Option A, proceed. The tool is approved and nothing prohibits it. An approved tool does not approve every data category, and not prohibited is self-authorization. Struck. Option B, proceed after swapping vendor names for code names. Pricing and terms still identify the vendor, and the NDA question is still sitting there unanswered. Struck. Option D, use a personal account since company policy only governs company workspaces. Company obligations follow company information wherever it goes, and a personal account drops the commercial protections on top of everything else. Struck. That leaves C, ask the policy owner whether NDA covered documents may go in, and wait for the actual answer. Escalate, because silence in a policy is a question, never a permission. Next episode, troubleshooting. The prompt that worked on Monday falls apart on Thursday, and Maya learns to diagnose instead of regenerate.